Why did you do that?
Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I love to talk about books. And I'm filming from my car today and it is chucking it down with rain, so I'm hoping the sound quality of this is okay. I've had to take my mum to an appointment, so I thought I would use the time, because I don't think I'm going to get the time to do it otherwise, to film a little shelf indulgence video to tell you what I've been reading, what I'm currently reading and what I'm going to read next. So since I last did one of these, I finished quite a few books. The first one was Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth, and I loved this book. I listened to it as an audiobook, and to begin with I wasn't sure if I was going to get on with the narrator, but actually I grew to love her. I think that I can't remember who the narrator was. I'll put it on the screen when I edit, but she was fantastic, and I've been wanting to read this book for ages. I'd heard about it on the Book Riots, which one would it have been? Probably All the Books podcast last year, and it just sounded so much fun. So it's set in a girls' school in New England, and back in, I think it's 1902, some of the girls there get obsessed with these memoirs by a woman called Mary MacLane, which it turns out they are real memoirs, and they're quite sapphic, and these girls are rumoured to be more than just friends, but right at the start of the book they die quite horrifically by being stung to death by a nest of yellow jacket wasps. And then, you know, in modern times, a young girl writes a book about this, because she's a friend of the family that still own the land where the school is. And so we've got these dual timelines about what's happening at the school back in 1902, and then the modern day one where this book is being turned into a movie, and we're following the strange goings on that are happening around that as well. And it's just fantastic. It's dark, it's funny, it's just, oh, I just loved it. I really loved it. I'll wrap it up properly at the end of the month, but definitely it lived up to my expectations. I absolutely loved it. And I also have the NetGalley ebook version, and I would definitely be going back to that at some point and reading it, as opposed to just listening to it as an audio book as well. The next book I read was also a NetGalley, actually. It was My Heart Went Walking by Sally Hanan. This is a book set in Ireland in the 80s, and we meet, I've forgotten what the character's called, Una. Una is 16 and she's just found out that she is pregnant, and the baby is her best friend's. She's kind of been in love with him forever. They slept together once and then she ended up pregnant, but she doesn't want to, in her view, ruin his life. So she doesn't tell him that the baby is his, and her mum wants her to go into one of like the nunnery houses where pregnant girls would have gone in that time, and then the nuns to take the baby up for adoption. But Una doesn't want to do this, so she runs away to Dublin, and we follow kind of what happens to her over the next couple of years. And I liked it well enough. To begin with, it kind of gave me vibes, and I think this is probably why I requested it. It kind of gave me vibes of Before My Actual Heart Breaks by Tish Delaney, but this is a much lighter, more kind of like commercial fiction version of that. And it was fine. It was a fun read. It was interesting. It did bring up some good points about you know, finding yourself pregnant at a young age that I could relate to. I had my first child when I was 17, but also it's like a total fairy tale version of that as well. You know, tough times do happen, but for the main character Una, things kind of conveniently fall into place, and it was a little bit too, I mean, it's heartwarming, it is a nice book, but for me it was a little bit yeah, have a baby as a teenager and everything will be fine. So yeah, maybe not as gritty as I normally like my fiction. I also read my Shelterbox book club book for the month, which was Three Apples Fell from the Sky by Nadine. I think it's Nadine. Oh, in fact, I've got it here. I came prepared. I knew I was going to be sitting for a while. By Narine Abgaryan. It's got a really cute cover. And this is a book that is set in Algeria. Is it? No, it's not Algeria. Armenia. Which I've never read a book that's set in Armenia before. And it's really sweet. It looks at all the people that live in this village that is set high up in the mountains. I did struggle to kind of place what time it was set in. It's post-World War, I think World War II, but it's significantly post, so it's maybe like the 60s or 70s. And what happens to the people of that village, the stories of their lives, and primarily kind of centering on this one woman whose name I've forgotten, Anatolia, who takes herself to bed in the first few pages, fully believing that she is about to breathe her last breath. And that sounds quite dark, and there are tough struggles for this village, like there's famine and drought. So many of their young men died fighting in the war, so it's a very elderly village. They're really inaccessible. They don't really have any health care or things like that, but it's told in little vignettes about the different people in the village, and it kind of comes together. It's really sweet, was the first word that came into my mind to describe it. It just really made me smile. I really love this book, and it's a bit of a different flavour to what we usually get in Shelterbox book club picks, which is a primary reason why I love being part of the book club. Not to ignore the fact that Shelterbox is a charity. They deliver shelter boxes to people in areas of whether it be natural disasters or wars and things like that. And these boxes provide them somewhere to sleep. I think there's like means to clean water and things like that. And being part of this book club, it's a £10 donation per month, which goes to the charity, but you also get your book. And they've got a really active Facebook group where the discussion is held after everyone's read the book. And normally those books are a little bit, again, back to that word gritty. They are a bit grittier, a bit darker. They're about, people living in conflict, people being refugees or immigrants and things like that. And they're always set in different cultures, which I love about this book club as well. So my mum managed to have the world's shortest hospital appointment, and I got interrupted in mid-flow about Shelterbox. Yes, their books are really diverse, but usually they are a little bit grimmer, tougher to read in terms of what is happening to the characters, or if it's a memoir of the person in that book. Whereas this just felt a little bit cozier, a little bit sweeter, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. Then I read my first book for the BookTube Prize judging for the translated fiction Octafinal, which was An Apprenticeship or The Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. I'm not allowed to say what I thought of it until this round is over, but I read it. And now I am currently reading Tangerine by Christine Mangan. I'm about 100 pages in. This is a book set in Tangier. I think after the Second World War is when Morocco is trying to get its independence from French rule, and it focuses on two women, Claire and Lucy, who were really, really close friends when they were at college together, but something has happened, I don't know what yet, and Lucy has turned up in Tangier where, is it Claire or is it Alice? I think I've called her Claire Mangan. She's Christine Mangan, and I think the character is not called Claire, she's called Alice. Sorry, I've got a little gate crasher here. He's just been finishing his dinner. Right, come on, you sit here. You can pass me my books, okay? Alice and... I've totally lost my train of thought. It's Alice and Lucy. So Alice is living out in Tangier with her husband. Hasn't spoken to Lucy since they finished college because something had happened between them, but we don't know what yet. And Lucy is, and Lucy just turns up at Alice's door. Alice is really not enjoying living in Morocco. She is not really leaving her apartment, whereas Alice is really, Lucy, I'm not doing well with these names. Lucy is really trying to get out there and immerse herself in the culture. I understand from the premise that John, Alice's husband, disappears, and there's something of a mystery around that, but I haven't got to that yet. But I am really, really enjoying this. And I also last night, because I'd finished playing Bad Heroines, I just started another audiobook, and I don't have many in my Audible account, and I don't even remember buying this one or why I bought it, but it was the shortest of them. It's like only a 5-hour audiobook, and it's The Partisan's Daughter by Louis de Bernières. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. It's the main character is a middle-aged white man, and he's cheating on his wife, so we'll see about that one. And then when I've finished Tangerine, I'll be moving on to The Passenger by Ulrich Alexander Boschwitz, which is about a Jewish man fleeing from the Nazis, and I don't really know much more about it than that. This is a library book, and when I went to pick it up, I ended up having a little browse of the shelves, so instead of coming home with one book, I came home with a few others. Oh, thank you. So the first one I'm being passed is Claire Harman's Charlotte Bronte, A Life, which I assume is a biography of Charlotte Bronte, which I think will be really interesting to read. Its cover's really nice. I don't know if you can see with the plastic protector that they put on most books from the library. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's quite a biggie, and there's not really many images in it. Not surprising, seeing as there weren't really cameras. But yeah, that looks like it's going to be good. And then which one's next? This one? I found an A.L. Kennedy book. I've read quite a few of her books over the years. Usually enjoyed her. Wasn't too sure on the last one I read, which was called, was it Bittersweet? I'll put the name on the screen. I can't remember what it was, but I don't know, I didn't like that one so much, but her short stories have always really impressed me. And this is another one of her short story collection, and something about it just really spoke to me. It's about, it's a dozen stories, a dozen ways of looking at love, or the lack of love. Here lies the battlefield of the heart, where characters who have suffered disaffection, alienation, or emotional damage somehow emerge, haltingly, awkwardly, into the astonishment of intimacy. And I thought that sounded really interesting, seeing as I have been very scarred by love, and I'm quite cynical, but you know, maybe one day I might want to venture haltingly, awkwardly back out there as well. So that is probably going to touch me on quite a few levels. And then finally, I picked up Kerry Andrews' Swansong. Not the same Swansong that I was raving about recently, which is by Kaylee Jepko something. Again, name on the screen. Which is the fictionalized version of Truman Capote basically screwing over his friends. This is a different Swansong, and this one I picked up. I mean, I think it had been on my TBR list anyway, but I picked this up because I think it's set in Scotland. Let's have a wee look-see. Polly Vaughan is trying to escape the ravaging guilt of a disturbing incident in London by heading north to the Scottish Highlands. As soon as she arrives, a spirited, funny, alert young woman goes looking for drink, drugs and sex, finding them all quickly and unsatisfactorily, oh my god, with the barman in the only pub. She also finds a fresh kind of fear alone in this eerie, myth-drenched landscape. increasingly prone to visions or visitations, floating white shapes in the waters of the loch or in the woods. She is terrified and fascinated by a man she came across in the forest on her first evening, apparently tearing apart a bird. Who is this strange loner and what is his sinister secret? So that sounds like it could be fun as well. I'm sorry, the giggling that you're hearing behind me is this little monkey and his doggy. And they're clowning around behind me, and it is now his bedtime, so I'm going to wrap this up. But I'm just glad that I've got something on camera this week. So yeah, lots of books. If you've read any of them, let me know what you thought. And look out for my February wrap up at the end of the month. Oh, and the ranking video I put up when I finished the booktube judging for the octafinals, which will be at the end of March, to see what I thought of the books that I read. And until next time, bye.